Yes.
Bogdanov, he did it.
Il bought.
He went all in.
Dump it. No! No!
You heard it here first. Bitcoin is going to zero. When it comes out, zero.
Just hodl, bro.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Holy cow, man.
Welcome.
So, as you guys can tell, I don't speak in spaces too often. And apparently I can't figure out how to do it on my browser. So I'm just chilling on my phone right now. But
Oh yeah, it only works on phone actually. We should have mentioned
no,
that.
no worries. I was like sitting on my browser. But you know, these are the good things. These are the good things to look at, you know, when you're building your own social platform, where it's like, oh, okay, man, you know, if we integrate a feature similar to Spaces, we're going to make it so that you can do it from the browser as well, you know? So
Yes, please.
I've got no idea why.
So annoying, man.
Yeah, it's so annoying because.
And the quality is sometimes pretty shit, to be honest. So I'm really hoping that you're going to make it better, and then instead of Spaces, we are going to Munify or something like that. You have to come up with a name for that.
I'm also. It's also loudspeaker. I can't do this where I'm talking on the phone. I'm talking into the phone, and it's not as high quality as if it was, you know, it's loudspeaker. Essentially, I'm talking to you guys on a loudspeaker phone setting. It's not the same. It's not as high quality. I sound like I'm shouting. Maybe I am. But listen, Taylor, is this your first ever interview where it's been somebody else interviewing you rather than you interviewing them?
This is the second. So I did there's a pretty big entrepreneurship podcast called Entrepreneurs on Fire. And I did an interview with them a while back, but this is it's been a while, man. So I appreciate, you know, being on the other side of the table for once.
This is the first crypto-based interview then.
Yeah, it definitely is. Definitely is. So thank you for having me.
So basically, you've got a little, you've got a sort of podcast that you run on a Wednesday with Munify, where you invite different influencers, different personalities, different founders and CEOs to find out their story, to find out what they're building, their passions. And today we get the opportunity to turn the tables around, and we want to find out all about you, your journey, your story. And before we move into what you're actually building,
We keep losing your shaman.
oh no. So before we move into what you're actually building, we want to know all about you. So can you go ahead and tell us your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is essentially my entire life. I've always been fascinated by financial markets. And more than anything, what fascinated me was the fact that essentially you could make money by looking at a computer screen and pressing buttons, right? And so, you know, went to school. I'm obviously from America, as you can tell from my accent. And, you know, junior high, high school, there was no financial literacy courses, or the courses they did have really gave you no information. And so, you know, it set me on this path in my university studies where I studied finance and economics. And it was still very like base level, where I left, you know, with a bunch of student debt, feeling like I still know nothing about investing. And luckily, I had access to really cool mentors, you know, people that have built real estate empires, people that came from the investment banking world, that knew I was interested in the field. And so when I talked to them, you know, I had a bunch of job offers with investment banks, you know, Goldman Sachs, some private equity firms, hedge funds. And luckily, my mentors kind of like steered me down a path of, you know, the best way to learn is to do it yourself. And so through that, I started investing in the stock market, started investing in, currencies, just because with my background in economics, I found it easier for me to identify kind of like macroeconomic trends. And so currencies were a profitable thing for me. And through that, I saw people talking about Bitcoin, in like 2017. And people kept talking about it. And so I was like, man, I got to check this out. Got involved with crypto Twitter, started doing some content anonymously. And kind of through that experience, not only did I have, the best financial education in the world through connecting to other like-minded, cool individuals and kind of sharing our journey, but it really just opened my eyes to the value that is out there on the internet. And what I love about social media and where technology is headed is, what set me on my path was this access to really cool mentors that could guide me and say, well, maybe don't do this path, maybe do this, right? And they leaned on their experience. And what social media allows for is for others to do the same thing without being in that same geographic location. And so it kind of set us on this path where, I took from my journey and the things that helped me and, the good and the bad that I see on crypto Twitter and YouTube and these other platforms. And, it pushed me to find some incredible partners and start the journey of building Munify. But that's kind of my journey in a nutshell, is, just a guy that has, learned how to invest, that has made a lot of mistakes, but has also seen kind of the curtain pulled back and kind of these lies that Wall Street and these other, big financial institutions teach people, saying, it's too complicated, you're never going to have success, like, it's just, if anybody's having success in the market, they're probably a scammer. And you see the other side of that curtain, and you realize the reason why they want to scare people away is because when people realize that this is a skill set they can learn, when they realize, with attention and putting in, the work, they can have success in the market too, essentially Wall Street loses a lot of its business. And so,
Yeah. I absolutely love that, because something that we've been covering at the Gem Hunters is that you don't necessarily need to be clever or smart to make money. What you need to do is to have experience and to be laser focused and to have that sort of mindset where you're willing to risk. It's not, a lot of smart people spend more time analyzing, and by the time they finish worrying and all the different aspects that could go wrong, in the workplace today, you've got health and safety, you've got all the different regulations, and I think a lot of smart people learn to abide by them, and they bring it into crypto, and it's all the apes and degens who are getting rich, isn't it?
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. It's funny because, if we define smart by intelligence and high IQs, it's really what I have seen is the best traders and investors are those that can define an edge and stick to it, right? And having the ability to just stick to a system, whatever it is that you're doing, if you're trading momentum, if you're trading, fundamentals, if you are doing charts, if you're just buying into long-term value, whatever it is, it's just like, the simpler you keep it, the more money you make, and I can tell you, like, this past, crypto run up, man, I can't even tell you how many people I told to stay away from Doge, right? That were messaging like, hey, Doge is 1 cent. I'm seeing that it's, like getting a lot of, and I'm like, stay away from that. It has no fundamental value. It's whatever, right? I was the smart guy in the room telling all my family and friends not to buy it. And I was also the smart guy getting hundreds of texts weeks and weeks and months after saying like, oh, if you didn't stop me from buying that, you know, my $1,000 would be $50,000 right now, right? And so it is one of those things where it's like, you know, it didn't fit into my strategy at the time because I'm a very like fundamentally focused. What is the value behind the company that I'm investing in? But where I was stupid was, you know, going hard after the memes or whatever. And like you said, you know, the degens, they made a lot more money than I did this last bull run because they saw there was a hype cycle. They saw, you know, the velocity and the liquidity in that meme coin market, and I missed out on a lot of it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I can't agree more. And I look at a lot of people. I've been here around the same sort of time as you. I think Panda, I think a lot of guys here sort of came in around 2017 because you had that. It was probably the first super hype cycle that crypto had. I mean, you had bull markets prior to that, you know, 2014, but nothing like 2017 where it was just insane. And I remember thinking back in 2017, I'm late. Like I've literally missed it. I have missed it. But and you know how wrong we were. But when I look around at all the millionaires that I know, I can't think of any who are actually that clever or smart. They're just apes and degens.
It's, you know, that's it. There really is something to say about people that so markets aren't efficient, you know, like I think you and I may have talked about this when you came on, you know, my podcast, but you know, a lot of people think the value, the market cap, whatever the valuation of a company, right? It's, you know, if something, if the market cap is 40 million, that company is a $40 million company, but the market is not efficient, right? Human beings are extremely irrational, and that's where you run into things where it's like, you know, right now in this current, you know, economic landscape, there are a lot of projects that are heavily undervalued to, you know, what their true valuation should be. And you know, the apes and the degens during that hype cycle with the memes and different things, right? They were able to identify human sentiment. They could see where people were going. They could see that, you know, one of the easiest on ramp for the masses and one of the allures is dipping into this meme coins. And so, you know, for me, it's one of those things where it's like, man, you know, you almost want to like tip your hat to them where like you said at the very beginning, you know, I was trying to be the smart guy in the room being like, this isn't going to end well, but I stopped myself from making, you know, I mean, like did pretty well this last run up, you know, I'm not going to complain, but nothing like the people that were putting in, you know, $1,000 turning it into 2.5 million on some crazy whatever meme that
Yeah,
Elon tweeted that day.
dog token. I think we were saying when I came onto the Munify podcast that when Queen Elizabeth died, that day alone, there's about 1,000 mem tokens made. Queen Elizabeth the First, Queen Elizabeth the Second, all the way to 1,000, and every single one of them pumped. But obviously, it's pump dump, pump dump, pump dump. If you can understand how to trade these tiny caps, it's so time consuming, but it also takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of boldness and a lot of tenacity. So yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying on there, and it does open up a whole new light. And there's a lot of people who've made big money, and as we were saying on your podcast, there's a lot of people who are just kids sat in their basement who've become millionaires overnight, and that in itself is a problem because obviously if you've not experienced anything, you've got all this money, all this wealth, that can be quite dangerous, can't it? So that's really interesting. But I want to move on now and speak to you. We've heard your story, which is actually really interesting. Similar, a little bit, kind of similar to a few of us. So what brought you to actually build Munify then?
Yeah, so man, you know, I through kind of this education that I had and following some incredible people on Twitter and then creating my own content and just being a part of crypto Twitter, I had the blessing and the privilege of being able to, quit my job, focus full time on investing, and really just focus on, spending time with my wife and my 3 kids. And so, I've got 3 little ones. It's very interesting how like your perspective, especially in my case, kind of changes once you have children. And I was sitting, this retired man, hanging out in my late 20s. And I just saw kind of the good and the bad that was happening on social media. And it really just hit me one day, because I was thinking about, like, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of them have, if you guys don't know what addictive algorithms are, you should definitely like do some research into it. But it's like all these systems are built to have some form of addictiveness, so that you use their platform, right? Because the users are the value of a platform. And I'm not here to talk about the morality of addictive algorithms and these platforms or different things, but what hit me was, if you're putting out funny content, like if you're on TikTok right now making funny videos, it's pretty incredible the reach that you can get going to the rest of the world. But there's not a lot of risk factors for TikTok users, because if they think your content is funny or not, that's just an opinion, right? And they can be like, oh, I don't think this is funny, I'm going to peace out. The same thing happens with, political content, influencers in the traditional sense, fashion, whatever it may be. None of it is kind of like detrimental, or can really, as far as like the content you consume, it's not going to really impact your life. But I was thinking about the power of this financial content. And, Marta and I were actually talking about this earlier, in the day on my podcast. The voices you listen to when you're brand new to investing, and when you're learning how to manage money, whatever it may be, the voice you listen to sets you off on a trajectory, right? Like if the first exposure you have is to some pump and dump scammer that says all the right things, you are going to have a really hard time having success in the market, because that's the content that you're taking in. And if you are following someone that genuinely wants to help you get to where they're at, that's going to help you to, achieve whatever goal you have in finance. But the toughest thing is, because these consumers are brand new to this market, because they've never done it before, they don't know how to value this information. There's no metrics for them to see who is actually a good content creator and who's bad, right? And the more I thought about this, and the more I thought about, like, okay, if my kids had the same ambition that I have, an interest in the financial markets, where would I send them? I just realized that vanity metrics like likes, shares, followers, whatever it is, they're not good indicators for financial communities. It's a really good starting point, but it's not the end all say all. And so that's kind of what really set me off on this journey of, like, okay, well, how can we take all the good things that come from social media, but how can we improve upon it to make it not only a safer ecosystem for the end consumers, but also way more lucrative for the content creators? Because the biggest pain in my side that drove me nuts, but I mean, I was happy about it. But I remember in like 2018 or 19, I would like tweet, and it's like, hey, like, Matic looks like it's going to pop off here on a nice little run, I'm buying a position. And it would pop off, and I'd have people that would DM me and be like, thanks so much, bro, I made like $3 million on this. And I'm like, what? Like, this information I'm giving is making all of these people money. And I'm like, and I'm not getting jack squat from Twitter. I'm just making money from my own portfolio. And so that was the other side of what we're building, is like, okay, how can we incentivize content creators more, so that we flip the current system on its head, where it's no longer the platform gets the meat and everybody else gets the scraps, but how do you build a platform where the creators get the meat and the platform gets the scraps, because there's a lot of scraps.
Yeah, I absolutely just loved what you just said there. And when I asked you the question, why did you build Munify? I genuinely couldn't wait to hear what your answer was going to be, because I was so intrigued. Why did you build this platform? And in my head, I was just like, come on, let's hear it. And I can't applaud you more, because you are completely right. And the stuff that we do at TGH, the stuff that I do on my Twitter, it's all aimed at helping people, at bringing value. And you've just said then how on the other side you made all these people money, but you've also got the issue, in my opinion, where there's people bringing value but not getting engagement for it. So I want to ask you, first of all, how is Munify going to actually reward the people bringing the real alpha, the real content of value?
Yeah. So, one of the biggest things that we get asked a lot is, how do you promote the best content creators, and kind of like, we were just speaking on a panel this last week, and they asked us, they were like, there's a lot of people that get deplatformed for strong, views. How do you keep them off your platform? Which is also, I think, one of the worst questions out there, because it's, when it comes to investing and when it comes to finance, in my opinion, there is no right or wrong. Like we were just saying earlier, there's a lot of people that make a ton of money on meme coins. And it's not something that I personally participate in, but it doesn't mean that I'm right, the meme coin community is wrong, or whatever. It just means we have different styles. And so that's one of the things that we're kind of like engineering with Munify is, you look at Twitter right now, and it's an echo chamber. You follow the people that you want to follow. Generally, the only way that you find new people to follow is if someone you're following says you should follow this guy as well, right? There's not really a good discover. But if any of you guys have spent time on TikTok, it has one of the best discover algorithms out there. Like, you don't have to be a massive account. You don't have to have a ton of followers or engagement. And how the algorithm works is it takes your content that you post, it takes them to different types of groups. And depending on the velocity and the engagement in those groups, the algorithm continues to promote it, which causes this really natural viral effect. And so what we wanted to do for content creators is, if you're building a page on Twitter right now, the only way that you really, really can monetize beyond, like going to YouTube and those different things is, or an easy way would be like set up a Patreon or a Substack. But you deal with the issue of, you have to build up a following on Twitter. You have to build up an audience. Then you have to overcome the hurdle of convincing them to come onto another platform for exclusive content. And so what we've engineered Munify to be is essentially a one-stop shop where you can discover the types of content. And like I was saying earlier, it's not about what's the best content or what's the worst content. For us, it's almost like, how I explain it simply is, imagine a dating app where you have the preferences, you have the different types of things that you like, and a dating app matches you to similar like-minded individuals. What we are aiming to do is figure out, what kind of risk tolerance do you have? What kind of time do you have to put into the market? Is this going to be a day-to-day thing? Is this going to be, you look at it once every week? Do you want long-term buys, short-term buys? Whatever it is, we try to match the consumer with the content creators that are putting out that type of content, because when like-minded individuals are paired together, that's when the chance and likelihood of success goes up exponentially. And so, obviously all of this has to be built out over time. Right now, all our discover functions is essentially like it would on Reddit, where you can see the top trending content over different periods of time. You can see content that's getting a lot of velocity, but eventually we're going to turn it into a algorithm that's very comparable to TikTok. And so you could be brand new on Munify, have a really good post about something, and if it performs well, it'll be pushed throughout the platform so that people can see, here's a brand new content creator that really knows what they're doing, and the data shows it. That was probably a way longer answer than you were looking for, and I apologize, guys, but it's sometimes it's a little bit chaotic for me to put my ideas together. But one of our primary goals is, how do you build a system where, you know, CNBC, everybody knows CNBC, you can turn on Mad Money, it's a network, they decide who you listen to, who are the talking heads. And for us, it's all about, how do we build a system where the data shows the top people for the different market conditions, so that everybody has not only an equal opportunity, but access to truly the top financial minds, because we all benefit from that.
Yeah. What you explained was really useful, because I didn't realize that that was the case. So can you explain really quickly, what is the algorithm that YouTube and Twitter uses? How does that differ from TikTok and what you're trying to build?
Yeah, so Twitter's algorithm is really just velocity based, where if they see something's getting enough of the vanity metrics within a certain time period, it will trend. But it's more of a content based algorithm versus promoting specific types of content creators. And so, you know, let's say Bitcoin is popping off, everybody's tweeting about Bitcoin. You can go into the trending section, you can obviously see there's, you know, 69,000 tweets about Bitcoin. You go into that, you're just going to see the aggregate number, and you're going to see some of the top accounts, but it's not really curated. YouTube is very similar, but it's also SEO based, where it's like, if you own a specific piece of real estate, the value to YouTube is, if you have content that is gaining a lot of views, it will always be in that top spot to be seen, even if it's a year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. What TikTok does that's really interesting is they look at a ton of data points about content, you know, consumers. What is the type of content that you watch the videos for? What is the type of content that you save? What is the type of content that you take out of the app and forward to people? I mean, it's honestly really scary, because TikTok owns the data. And if you guys have seen in the privacy agreement, the access they have to your information, they have everything. But they look at that, and they look at how much time you spend on different things. And so as people create content in those areas, they're not prejudiced against, like, oh, if it's a big account, push it all to you. And then they see, as things are getting more engagement, they take it into these other groups. So they kind of just group like-minded people. And so, without going into too much more detail, because I know you said keep it short and I didn't, what we are building is something similar, where, for example, for our algorithm, it would be, you know, if we see 90% of the content that you're engaging with, that you're saving with, that you're commenting on is NFT based on a month-to-month time frame, bullish sentiment, we're going to continue, you know, our platform assumes, okay, this user is here for NFT content. We're going to push that content to them. We're going to push things that have a similar sentiment, similar time frame, because that's what you're there looking for. But we're also building it into our algorithm where we show content that would challenge that view. So if you're always taking things that is bullish, our algorithm is going to put some content into your Discover feed showing why certain NFTs, you know, are bearish, or why, you know, the outlook isn't as great as you might think. Because the biggest issue that I see with newcomers on Twitter specifically, like I was saying, it's an echo chamber. You're really only seeing the content that you want to see. And so it just creates an environment where people don't get a good overview of how the market truly is until it's too late. And so that's what we're trying to combat. But also, help content creators build their brands. You know, it shouldn't just be up to you to build your influence. The platform should be engaged with that, because as you grow, the platform grows. And so that's kind of the driving factors for us.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm also looking at the fact that you kind of, as you said then, Twitter is an echo chamber, and it ends up just everyone's just copying each other, everyone's acting, everyone's just trying to get likes and follows.
Totally.
So what I'm trying to understand is, first of all, Munify is crypto orientated. It's not stock or forex or anything like that. Only crypto, yeah.
No, so we're focused on crypto right now, just because obviously, you know, the connections to content creators that we have, crypto users have the highest mentality of early adopter, and it's the number one asset class that retail wants access to, but feels is too complicated or daunting to like get started. And so we're starting in crypto, but the goal for the platform is to be in all kind of all encompassing financial platform. So you can go on, you can, you know, the idea is I'm really good at crypto. I know zero about traditional markets. I would like to go on to Muunify to find the top, you know, investors in stocks and other things, so that I can diversify outside of crypto, but also not have to spend 10,000 hours becoming an expert. I can just follow the experts, right? And so we are building essentially a social CNBC where it covers all financial markets, so that anything you're interested in getting exposure to, or for example, if you see that crypto is down, but Brazil is a really big emerging market, and you know their traditional markets are popping off, you could essentially get exposure to that without having to put in all the time and complexity of diversifying that portfolio.
Yeah, I love that. That's really interesting. Did I read somewhere that you guys were going to reward content and influencers in regards to if their content was actually helping people? Remember you were saying before that you shared a post on Twitter about Matic and it flew off, and you were like, hang on a minute, I should get something for this. Did they already ask before, how are you planning on rewarding, actually giving the rewards out, you know, for doing that?
Yeah, so there's many different ways that we're doing it, and you know, kind of going back to what we were saying about Twitter being an echo chamber. One of the biggest kind of driving motivators for us has been how do we build a platform that doesn't, you know, it's not restrictive to content creators, but it has a system that incentivizes even the worst content creator, worst meaning, you know, like only focused on themselves, trying to pump and dump, use their influence, you know, to manipulate whatever. How do we build a system that incentivizes them to put out content, because that's going to be their best chance at success and making money, right? And so everything we do is from the point of view of like, how would people manipulate this, and how can we get them to act in kind of like the end user's benefit, because it's going to serve them the best. And so monetization is one of the biggest ways that we want to do it. So for example, on our Discover algorithm as well, if you saw that, let's say it's Matic, because we just said it earlier, you know, which it's, I mean, it's not Matic anymore, but I fell in love with Matic early on, and so I continue to call it Matic. But let's say somebody was giving out really good advice. Let's say I was giving out good advice about Matic, saying like, this is a good buy, here's why I'm buying it, and I'm doing that for months. And it doesn't move in a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, but I'm staying true in my content, staying true. Once Matic starts popping off, right, people would see and discover it, you know, if someone saw that Matic is trending, it's not just like who's talking about it right now, but it's designed to show who was talking about it at those perfect moments, right? When it was at its low, or when it was starting to reverse, or whatever. Like, that's what we want to highlight. And so a lot of the content that we're going to show and discover isn't just going to be what's hot right now. even though that is what it is, just because of early on in the platform, you can't have these algorithms without a decent amount of content. But the idea is it's also going to show things that are retroactive, so that those content creators can see, I called this, here's what I saw. And one of the primary things that content creators can do is they can monetize their content. And so you will have the ability to have a public account connected to your public account. You can also have a private account, or you can set up a subscription base. And so that is designed for content creators to directly monetize. Crypto is like a funny industry. Traditional markets, it's understood that if you are getting exclusive content, that you have to pay for it. But there's kind of like a bad taste in crypto users, mouth, where if somebody wants to monetize their content, via a paid group or whatever, people think it's bad. To me, that's just kind of a sign of a really like infantile market. And eventually we will mature to, if you're going to follow the top people, the top groups, it's understood that you're probably going to pay those groups for the information. And so we allow for people to opt into subscriptions as well. The content creator, they get to decide what the subscription price is. It's up to you, and it's a free market. So you're competing with other content creators to get people, which drives prices down. But the other way that we incentivize people is, we've looked at, okay, what is bad about other social platforms? Everything comes down to the data. What can social platforms do with the data? How do they use that data? How do they monetize? And so what we've done is we've actually formulated a second company, which is the data company that Munify works with. That data is licensed to Munify for us to use in our algorithms and different things. And we will be tokenizing the ownership of that data company. And so that gives our content creators, it gives our users, everybody the opportunity to essentially own their data on an aggregate sense on the platform, to have governance over it. But what I think is the coolest is, through that token, it actually allows for people to essentially invest in the various content creators, where it's no longer a system where I'm competing against you guys for attention, but it's more about, well, I own the platform, you own the platform. Let's promote the best content creators, because that's only going to grow the platform, which we own. And so we're tokenizing that. We've set aside a significant portion that we will be giving as rewards to early adopters. The biggest thing is, because we are dealing with actual ownership and not utility, there is a lot of regulatory compliance that goes into it. And so this is why we have to be pretty quiet with our marketing right now. Is we don't want to do anything that puts us in trouble with the SEC. We want to do everything legally. We want to make sure that we're protected, our users are protected. And so there are only certain things we can say right now. But this time, within the next 6 months to 9 months, we should be able to speak much more freely. And I'll just leave you with, me and my partners, all of us have had various success. We're not building this for a multi-billion-dollar exit. We're truly building this to bring value to the world. And we also want to make sure that we know we're nothing without our early adopters. So everything we've designed is basically like, if you're on Munify early and you're working hard, just know we're paying attention, and you will be rewarded. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. On that note, now that you mentioned about rewards and sort of, have you got I'm sure there was a sort of referral scheme. Now my issue is that you've got a group there. There's the Munify chat on Telegram, and there's not been much support, has there, in regards to, you're talking now about people supporting and stuff like that. One thing that I'm getting feedback wise is that referral systems seem to switch people off a little bit, because it sort of makes it look as if it's almost manipulated and almost not as organic. But so I'm trying to understand really from two aspects, because how are you supposed to get the users in the first place if you haven't got some sort of referral system? Because I'm hearing people kind of backing off a little bit in regards to that aspect. So, Panda, one second, Panda, what did one of our community members was banging on about it? This is just a general question.
Yeah. So he was basically saying when he's Googling something, some product, and he sees the first link as a referral link, then he purposely doesn't click the first one and goes to the one which isn't a referral link. And he was kind of saying the same, like, yeah, you guys are making money out of it, and so I'm not going to use your referral link. I would prefer to just use a normal like sign up process.
Yeah. So awesome question to unpack. So one of the reasons why we have the app currently is invite only. And, how can something be invite only, but also, literally designed for everybody? The reason why we did that is one, we're very, very focused on building right now. And being perfectly honest, the app is a solid base. It's really good for a public beta, but also me, the development team, my partners, we understand like we got to iterate. We got to bring in some more of these features that are on the roadmap. We need to make the app significantly faster, and different things. And the thing is, a lot of people will only give something like this one chance. And so one of the reasons why we have it as invite only is we want to see people that are truly, truly motivated, that, understand that it's early, but want to be a part of it, right? Just because we can get the people later on when we pull off it's invite only and they can sign up. But someone like that might sign up right now. They might think, oh, this is too slow, or there's a bug right here that caused it, to die, and they'll never come back. And so we're focused on building at the moment, focused on development. We've done zero. We haven't spent a cent on marketing, and that's because it's not the right time for it, right? Like everything comes down to the right time and place. We've got a pretty cool strategy. So that's the first reason. The second reason why we have things as invite only is we actually have kind of like a build algorithm where, like I was saying, man, I have like our lawyers, words ringing in my ears, being like don't you dare say too much. Like,
yeah, you don't have to say too much.
So we've set aside a significant portion of this data company, and we want to make sure the people we give it to are long-term Munify builders, not necessarily somebody looking for a airdrop that they can liquidate, for some free money, right? And so one of the reasons why we did this kind of like made it invite only, you have to have an invite code on Munify. There is no other way to get on. You cannot just sign up. You have to be invited by somebody. And so we want to take away from this being a referral link where it's like you guys are getting compensated, and treating it more as, if you sign up on Munify and you have access, you have your own individual invite code, you are now enabling and helping other people get access, right? Like, because they can't get on without you. But really, we look at those invites, we kind of have a weighted system where it's not just the number of people that sign up with an invite code, but it's also how influential the people are on the platform, not outside of the platform, on Munify. So like if, Shaman, if you invited 10,000 people and they all sign up and they never do anything, or they never actually participate on Munify, they just sign up, or they're bots or something like that, you would get 10,000 points. But if, Panda invited one person who went on to Munify, they built a page, they had, 60,000 followers, whatever it is, that one invite would be worth 60,000 points, right? More than the 10,000 people that you invited. And so for us, it's part of like, how can we identify who our true builders are? But it is something that we're also looking to we're also looking, to perfect it or make it better, or also make it more inclusive, because I know that there are some people that have tried to sign up on Munify because they've seen some of, our content on TikTok, and there's no invite codes on TikTok right now. And so they're just like, I downloaded the app, I tried to get on, I don't have an invite code, I couldn't find one. And so for us, it's like, okay, well, maybe there's a way that we can like allow for people to just get on without an invite code. But the way that we're thinking about it is we're really utilizing the invites to identify early adopters so that we make sure that we put these rewards in the right hands.
Yeah, so now that you've explained it in depth, it actually really makes sense. It's also sort of like a stress test, I guess, so that you can see what the platform can do right now and scale it up, kind of like a slow rollout. Yeah, that's pretty good. I've seen a couple of projects do that, like I think Steppen did the same. Slow rollout. I think they had like 10 different levels or so of rollouts. Yeah, that's definitely a good approach. Can you give us some idea on, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but yeah, basically, what's your approach to onboard the masses later on when the platform is ready? Are you allowed to speak on that?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So what we are building for, we're not building to become the next crypto Twitter. Crypto Twitter is pretty small when you think about it. And there are millions and millions of people that are interested in hundreds of millions that are interested in financial markets and learning how to invest. And again, going back to the core ethos, what we're building the platform for is essentially, if you don't have the opportunity for higher education, if financial literacy is not taught in your school system, if you don't have access to mentors, how do we build an app that gives any financially curious person the ability to immediately connect with somebody and start that journey of learning how to invest? And so that's the market that we're going after, which is significantly larger. And what we view Munify as is crypto is nowhere close to mass adoption. We view our platform as one of the really cool, I guess, catalysts that could bring more people into the crypto market is, focusing on kind of like a crypto education, right? And so what our marketing is we're actually launching the app here in a few months. I see my partner, Garrett, is on this call. So Garrett, I'll do a podcast with him sometime when we get closer to this. His story is pretty unbelievable, but we're going to be launching this in China and in India as well. But primarily focused on India will be focused on crypto. China is going to be focused on financial markets. And we have a pretty awesome team over there that have come from, Huawei, Tencent, other top 10 companies in the world. And we feel that our growth in those markets will significantly outpace what exists currently here on what we call the global platform, or kind of like the English speaking platform that you guys see on the App Store right now. And so we do have global outreach. We have things that are going on in other markets, but primarily what our marketing is going to focus on is there's not a lot of interest in financial markets right now. These are the best opportunities to buy, but it's also when there's the least amount of attention, because people are worried about, how can I afford gas? How can I put food on my table? And so that's why we are so focused on, well, any marketing dollars that we would put into ads or anything, let's just put it into building right now, because there's not, we need to build it to be better. And the sentiment isn't there. But when we launch it publicly, we've got some pretty culturally significant people within our, that's how I'd phrase it, within our network. And our plan is to work through kind of traditional influencers. They have the highest amount of engagement and pass through of any other form of branding. And so, for example, we'll be launching a massive campaign for stay-at-home moms, right? Through these kind of like mommy bloggers and educating them on how to invest so that they can educate their following and different things like that. We'll like I said, we'll throw some cultural fire on this as well. Oh man, I want to give you guys like so much information, but I'm also like, I'm not going to reveal it all. But marketing, we've got a pretty amazing network, and like I said, we're built to go to the masses, but primarily our focus right now is getting the app to a point where it makes sense to start casting that net.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So we're getting close to 1 hour, but I have one question I really want to ask you. Who would be the number one person on your list that you would like to see on Munify?
Oh man, the number one person on my list that I want to see on Munify. There's a lot of really, really cool people out there. I'll give the political answer. I'm not going to name one I want to see you guys on Muunify. You guys are on Muunify. I want you there.
Yeah, we're already
really,
there.
yeah. What I will say is our dream and our goal for Muunify is basically somebody that is currently studying to, work in finance, get a job, working 100 hours plus a week at an investment bank or whatever it is. We want to build a platform where those students can now, instead of spending the time doing that, they can have a place where they can monetize, start putting their time and their efforts into building up their own financial kind of network, and just have it be basically a new job opportunity where instead of going to Goldman Sachs, they're like, you know what, I want to learn how to invest. I'm going to share my journey on Muunify, and if I start doing it well, the algorithm will help me build up a following, which then I can add to a subscription base and monetize, and that's my career path. And so that's the type of person. Instead of saying one person, we want to build it to the point where kids are growing up and they're like, I want to be a contributor on Muunify. Like, that's my dream job. And so that's what we're building it for.
Love the answer. So rather than having someone like Elon Musk on, it's going to be a tool for the masses. That's nice to hear.
I was about to say Elon Musk. I was about to say Elon.
I was thinking that too.
Funnily enough, I was like, who wouldn't say Elon Musk with how big he is? And he's one of the worst, isn't he? Thinking about it, he's one of the worst on Twitter, isn't he? He's such a egotistic kind of attention.
Well, it's don't get me wrong. Those guys that already have that big of a platform and that much of an influence, we would love to have them on Muunify. I don't know if the incentive structure is there for guys like that for it to make sense. But what I care more about, and kind of my obsession is 20 years from now, 10 years from now, whatever the timeline is, there are going to be the next Elon Musks, the next Warren Buffetts, the next, whatever, Peter Schiff, right? Who, say what you will about him, that dude is, he's something else, but, he's obviously done something right. I want to figure out who are those guys that are doing it right now, because I could care less how you're managing, $40 billion, but I want to know the people that are able to turn 10,000 into 10 million, right? Yeah. And that's what the masses care about too. The masses do not care about how Warren Buffett's going to change 40 million into 50 or 40 billion into 50 billion, but they do care about, if you can teach me to turn $10,000 into 100,000, that's what's going to bring masses in. And so that's the type of people we want to attract.
Absolutely love it. That was a great answer. Now, are you happy to answer some public questions? If we get a few people to ask questions at random, are you happy with that?
Yeah, I'm totally cool.
So basically, what we done last week was you can either request a speaker spot and ask Taylor a question, or you can ask us a question in the Gem Hunters or the Munify community. So you let us know. If anyone's got any questions, then just let us know. Request speaker spot or ask us in the Gem Hunters. We'll keep that open for 10 minutes, guys, because it's already been an hour. I don't want to listen. I need to listen to the podcast you had earlier. You had Marta on. Marta is an absolute legend. She's such an amazing person. She's helped so many people. She's built an amazing community. And on that note, we actually have spaces every single Wednesday where we bring someone amazing on, someone who has changed the space or is changing the space or who is currently building an amazing platform. And we're on a bit of a roll right now. This week we got Taylor on, such an amazing person. Last week we had Moon Sama, Donny, Big Bags, and it's funnily enough, it was his first live AMA ever. So that was amazing. So yeah, we'll leave the questions open for 10 minutes. Have you got any closing comments while we're waiting for questions, Taylor?
Well, so I saw one comment. Someone said, I have a suggestion when it comes to future adoption. It'd be cool to have a feature where you can plug into other social media and accounts and broadcast them to your other socials. Yeah, no, we totally have it on the roadmap, like right now. So you can make a page on Munify and you can actually, we have the icons for the various socials that you can put into your profile so that people can see them and connect to them. And right now we only have push to Twitter as a feature, but that's the whole idea is basically how do we become the native platform where it makes it easier for content creators where if they're like, hey, I'm posting a video on Munify, you can post the video to Munify and immediately push it to YouTube, Twitter, and other platforms as well. Because if you make it easier for content creators, they're more incentivized to join. And so great question. Totally on the roadmap. Obviously, it takes time to build it out, but I love the way that you're thinking. The one plug I would give is be on the lookout. So my partner, like I said, Garrett, he comes from the entertainment industry. He also comes from media, specifically in China, but has connections to all the networks here. He's doing some really, really cool things that you guys are going to be seeing here pretty soon with some of the larger NFT groups that where it collabs with hip hop. It brings the communities in. There's a little bit of a competition. There's going to be a big album release by some pretty cool people. And the album is actually being tokenized into NFTs with, I don't have all the details, but essentially the royalties and the IP are going to be owned by the NFTs. And so some really, really cool things that one of my partners is doing as far as like community building within the NFT world. And so he commented on this, Garrett Openshaw, but keep an eye out for that in the coming weeks because it'll be pretty cool.
So I have.
Yeah, go on,
I
Martha.
hopped on real quick because I have to go on another spaces. But Tyler, actually, a question. When Munify is up and running, are you going to take back your role of content creator yourself, or are you going to stay in the background and just keep building? I'm actually interested because you talked to me about previously doing it. So I wonder when you do have that space, that platform you're building with passion and with that amazing plan, when you actually have the perfect space, will you go back to content creating?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me is I think a lot of people when they take figures that are in the public eye, that are celebrities or whatever it is, like Elon Musk, I think people put a lot more weight to their words or the things that they say. And so I stick away from posting content. I don't post anything on my Twitter or Munify now just because it represents Munify indirectly. And, for me, the risk is too great of something in my strategy that I see of value that I, tweet about ends up going wrong. And, some people get hurt. And now it turns, instead of being Taylor's wrong, it's Munify is a bad platform. And so, you know, I don't want, the focus for us is how do we build a platform to give a voice to guys like you. And I'm happy with that. And I'll just stick to the shadows and continue to build cool things to to build you guys up and let you do the content.
I love that. That was a great question as well, Marta. And I still need to watch the podcast from earlier. I caught the start of it, and such a great speaker, Marta. You are literally make my.
Thanks. They very much appreciate that answer. I was very curious actually. And I cannot wait for the platform to be up and running. I know you're working very, very hard. We talked about it. I'm sure it's going to be a great place with that focus around quality content. It will be worth waiting for. I'm going to have to hop off, guys. Thanks again, and I'm sure I'll see you around, and we'll talk soon again, hopefully on another super informative spaces. Love you. Gonna leave you. Bye.
Thanks, Marta.
Okay, great stuff. No more questions. So what we'll do, hang on a minute, got a couple of tags there in the Gem Hunters. Does the community have any saying in how the platform evolves? What features make it to the live version? Maybe even the UI.
Yeah. So absolutely, that was one of the big reasons why we wanted to tokenize the ownership for the data company, but instead of going a traditional route with having it be a public company, we tokenized it because we do want to implement governance. It's kind of like a hybrid structure, because I do think complete and total decentralization makes sense in some areas, but in others, it can hurt you in a competitive landscape. And so yeah, there will be governance. There's not going to be complete and total governance. Like if Munify wants to go out and hire more developers, it's not something that we need to go to a community vote for. But if we want to allow ads, if we want to monetize in any way, if there's going to be shadow banning or deplatforming somebody, anything that has to do with the data that we don't own, you guys will own, that all has to go to a governance vote. And so it's definitely something where it's like we'll publish roadmaps as far as like features that we have on the roadmap, but then let the community vote to what they want prioritized or what they would like to see. And also we'll have a section where community members can suggest features, and depending on how many votes they get, we'll implement them. Okay, great.
That was the last question. I'm eating a Big Mac here, actually.
I need to go. Yeah, it's a couple hours past lunch my time, and I'm like, man, I got to go get some food before my next meetings as well. You know.
So you've been in podcasts all day, so we really appreciate you coming over. You're such a massive guest. We've recorded this. We're going to put it on YouTube. Thank you once again for coming, Taylor, and I'm sure we'll have you on again. We'll stay up to date with Munify. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely, guys. Yep. Look forward to doing it again.
Cheers, Taylor. Space is over. Thank you for everyone for coming. Remember, next week we have Spaces again. We'll have another amazing guest. So please tune in. Cheers, guys.